For a Christian, obedience is critical, but it may not be what you're thinking. There are two different kinds of obedience we see in the Bible. One is not so much liked by God, and the other is what He wants from us. The obedience that He doesn't want is from the Pharisees of Jesus' time. These were some of the best rule keepers that ever lived. They obeyed the laws of Moses. They had laws to keep them from breaking laws. These people were righteous and holy on the outside, but Jesus said they're like whitewashed tombs. They're dead on the inside. What God is looking for from us is something a little bit different, maybe 180 degrees different. He wants true obedience that comes from a heart of love and a heart of trust and a place where we've surrendered to Him. And what He does inside of us is He produces obedience. But this obedience can't come from me trying harder to do better, even though I have to sometimes. We require discipline, but primarily, the obedience that God is looking for from us comes from faith. Paul, in his letter to the Romans, says this, and I believe most scholars believe the thesis is further down in chapter 1, but I believe the thesis to Romans is found in chapter 1, verse 5. It's also found in chapter 16, verse 26. So he starts and ends the whole letter with this saying. He says this in verse 5. Jesus Christ our Lord, through whom we have received grace and apostleship to bring about the obedience of faith among all the Gentiles for His name's sake. You see, this obedience of faith was the light was shined on this to me at one point because I read it out of the NIV, and it says obedience that comes from faith, and it's exactly what the word "of" means in this instance. It's an obedience that is derived from our faith. And as we have faith in Him and live a faith lifestyle and walk in this faith, He produces an obedience in this. It turns our have tos into want tos. Suddenly we want to love other people more. Suddenly we want to do what our Father has told us to do. I remember when my son was little, probably 3, 4, 5 years old. He wanted to be just like his daddy. I thought, oh Lord, help him. But I was the same way when I was just a small child. I saw my father as somebody big and strong, and nobody could conquer him. He's the ideal. And this is exactly the kind of obedience that God is looking for from us because we want to be like our Father. And this is where we come from in this Christian walk, where as we walk in this lifestyle of prayer, a lifestyle of Bible reading, a lifestyle of church and being with other believers, a lifestyle of doing things for other people that we don't necessarily always want to do, that's love. It's sacrificing something of yourself for somebody else. That's the love that God's called us to. And when we walk in that love and when we walk in that lifestyle, God produces obedience in us naturally. That this is the same as Jesus told the Pharisees. He said, first clean the inside of the cup and dish, then the outside will be clean also. Paul goes on later in Romans in chapter 12 and says, don't be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And as we walk this life of being living sacrifices and denying ourselves as Jesus told us to do, following Him, abiding in Him, as He said, living a lifestyle of this faith walk with Jesus Christ, we change. He changes us from the inside out. We clean our hearts, and suddenly our obedience is something that's coming from a place of love for God and a trust in what God has said, that what He said is true and what He said is good for us and is for His glory. And we learn to walk in that, and we find a life more abundant. Have a great day.